Hello, hello, hello. Everyday superpower where we talk body language, relationships, game, human dynamics, and everything in between. We're going to have a fun conversation today, alright? Hopefully, you enjoy some of the imagery I use during this, alright? I've tried to accumulate quite the collection of. Funny looking people to say the least. We're going to be talking about particular behaviors that repel women. So we're going to have a little bit of a laugh. We're going to go into a deeper level of discussion. We'll see how much time I've got. But we're going to touch maybe briefly on a bit of psychology, evolutionary biology, spiritual, behavioral ideas. And we're going to start here, okay? We're going to start on the surface. These are some behavioral signals that will repel women. Negativity, right? Complaining and expressing negative communication on a regular basis, expressing low vibrational emotion through your communication. And we've all been young, we've been a little bit I don't know how old you are listening to this, but I know myself, I was a younger self and I was a little more emotionally outward, not as stoic as one may be nowadays. And in doing so, I was quite prone to some repulsive behaviors, such as, not as good under pressure, not as reserved, not as in control of one's own reality. And that is repulsive, because how can the woman believe in you if you can't control yourself? So the negativity sets a low vibrational tone, and emotions do have vibration, right? Such as everything vibrates in the material plane, such as the table, such as the chair, such as the kettle, such as the whiteboard and the walls of your house. If we break it down and look into the atoms and the electrons and the ions and everything in between, we will find at its finest degree, if not continuing onwards, finer and finer, that these products are always moving, right? Vibration is real. When we elevate the vibration higher and higher and higher and higher, we enter the realm of the emotional, okay? Which is why, maybe those who control the media and the message and so forth want you operating in a lower vibrational space, as you're more malleable and easy to control, right? Shame, guilt, anger, all low of the barrel vibrational energies and emotions, and this vibration catches on, like attracts like, and mirror neurons pick up on emotions. So when you engage with that woman and you are in this perpetual state of lower frequency, and listen to me here when I say this, it might not be and probably isn't of your own making. As I said, this world and the powers that be have the intelligence and the know-how of how to influence you and society as a whole into this consistent lower state, a state where you can get ill easier, a state where you're off center, a state where you need to look for guidance and help for those who have given you the poison in the first place to know how to feel better, right? You've taken it from them, and what happens is when this lovely woman engages with you, you offload it onto her. And as opposed to being attracted to that behavior, she sees the femininity in you, right? She sees a man who is perceiving the world through a overt emotional lens. That's not attractive to her. So it repels attraction, and it signals lack of control under pressure. Moving onwards to a lack of hygiene or self-care. Alright? We evolutionarily pay attention to the hygiene of others as it's a direct representative of the health of that individual, if not physically, definitely psychologically speaking. This is to be really paid attention to, because you might think you are able to hide this with applying particular chemicals to the skin, whether it be aftershave or deodorant or so on and so forth. The subconscious mind, the primitive hardwiring that resides within her, right, which has evolved to be able to bypass the nonsense you try and shield yourself with, she sees straight through it. Your hygiene is represented in the quality of the follicle of your hair. Your hygiene is represented of the tones and the blemishes of your skin. Your hygiene is represented through your nonverbal communication, considering you, at the very least subconsciously, are aware that you aren't in an optimal space as far as your cleanliness is concerned, and as the mind and the body dance to and fro, the body represents the state of the mind and the state of the mind represents the body. She does not want to procreate with an individual who is showing markers of bad health, bad mental health, someone who can't look after themselves. How can you look after her? Pay attention. I know we as men, might be okay and comfortable being a bit grubby and, not being the pinnacle of cleanliness. But if you are wanting to appeal to the feminine, it's something to take into consideration, because you're not strictly applying to her simple conscious mind. You are applying yourself to a biological makeup and hardwiring that she doesn't even know exists. There's a difference between arrogance and confidence. There's a difference between confidence via egocentrism and self-denial versus actual competence of getting the job done. Any degree of overcompensation will be picked up upon and will signal insecurity. The loudest man in the room at this point is very well understood by the woman to be the man who is hiding the polar opposite. Men don't really pick up on this on the same degree, and consciously speaking, if you are to engage with her and say, he's hiding something, she might not consciously be aware, but the bottom line is, she more than likely isn't going to be sexually attracted to him, because there's going to be a non-congruence between the words he speaks and the non-verbal cues he emits via his body. They say a woman has a woman's intuition, and that intuition, that gut feeling, that survival mechanism is going to pick up on this non-congruent behavior and create a jarring response to this person. Moving onwards, if you are perceived in any way needy, if you are perceived in any way desperate, if you are pedestalizing her and pursuing her to a degree where you indirectly lower your value, which rids yourself of dominant position, rids yourself of masculine position, it will lower your perceived value in the eyes of her, and it will trigger avoidance. The man who is desperate, economically speaking, is showcasing his scarcity when it comes to the realm as which he's trying to garner resource. So if it's attention from the feminine he craves, yeah, some of it might be rooted in an absent mother figure or so forth. It might be a scream for help for the inner child, but it still manifests within the adult, and as it manifests through the adult, the independent pursued man is diminished and rid of and replaced for a footstool of the feminine, as the submissive become the dominant in the relationship. To be perceived as lower value of her is an instant means of ridding yourself from the potential of dating her. And don't try to fight your way out of that bag, okay? Poor listening skills is common across the board, whether it be man, woman, of any age, right? This is something we should be ridding of as we start to understand how to hold ourselves and how to find fascination in others. Narcissism is self-indulgent, it's egocentric, it's caring for oneself, right? But it's a spectrum, as you can push outwards through the narcissism, leaving oneself and into the body of another, seeing the world through the eyes of another instead of yourself, and we would call this empathy. So on one end of the spectrum we have a deep narcissistic man, and then on the other side of that spectrum that same man becomes a deep empathic man. Through empathy comes emotional intelligence, comes focus and the appropriate means of engaging with man and woman alike. When you pay attention to her, she will feel seen, and nobody sees her. She's been craving for this moment, and through you seeing her, she will respond in like and see you in return. Moving onwards, as far as emotional skills are concerned, she's going to be repulsed by your inability to regulate emotions. So we as men sort of embrace anger and volatility in this explosive sense, denying the fact that it is emotion. So we see these young kids on the streets living hard lives, allowing the streets to raise them, and they have been brought up by single mothers, generally speaking, as the father is absent, he's in prison, he's gone, he's not doing a great job. We see this explosive anger and violent nature of this child manifest as a means of defending oneself, as a means of defending the scared and frightened inner child. Once again, it's a symbol of overcompensation. One must be resolute, self-centered, handle pressure appropriately, and inability to regulate emotions is bad, but it's not to say we can't feel emotion. We are but human. But we must allow the waves to flow over us, and we must acknowledge these waves when they happen, how we react as such. Me personally, I know I can't put a face on. When I'm feeling some sort of way, I know people are going to see that in my, face from the get-go. I'm not going to go around and lie to people and try and put a smile on. So when I feel a specific kind of way, I'm not necessarily going to be going out of my way to engage in social situations. It's not going to be in my best interest. So that, just as a purely simple idea, is a first step into understanding what I should and shouldn't do whilst going under, the stress of emotional flow. Mood swings, of course, signal instability, and albeit that lady might be attracted to a bit of drama, something from her background might attract her to, at the very most extreme, a violent man. We see this happen. But in the general scheme of things, let's say even if she was interested in that on a deeper, darker, shadow basis, it's not in your best interest to be erratic and as loose as that. We see when assessing these dating programs on this channel, the man who doesn't get any craves validation. He engages with a woman and asks her afterwards how he did, as if normal communication is some sort of test, because he is trying to run game to a deeper level, as opposed to, as we spoke of, in an empathic manner, as opposed to understanding the individual before him. He's so locked up in his own mind and how he acts. He needs to inquire as to whether he was good enough post-interaction, and there's nothing much more repulsive than that. You are but a shell of a human, Fishing for approval will trigger an avoidance response in a woman. It's feminine in nature, and low confidence doesn't signal good mental health. It does not apply to the ambitious man the feminine wants. It does not apply to the protective man the woman wants. It does not apply to a man who is able and willing to survive that human female animal wants. Manipulative behavior. The moment she doesn't trust you, she doesn't trust you. The moment she finds an excuse to not trust you, she's going to respond in kind, and she will cheat on you. The more you try to over-control the situation, the less control you're going to have. Through the universal law of polarity, the less control over your relationship you have in a overt sense, the more she's going to abide to instruction, the more she is going to be by your side and support you and be the best person for you, because she's going to identify and see in you the masculine that she hasn't met before. But that masculine is the masculine. It is the entity we are told not to be. It is the entity that we haven't seen in our friends and family around us. It is the entity, the spirit and the biological nature of that which we have been told to shun by the engineering of the world, that wants you to operate on a weaker, low vibrational level. To over-control shows lack of control. If I need to heavy-handedly try and get my way with the feminine is going to perceive me as weak, because I'm trying too hard. How strong is my masculinity? How strong is my pimp hand if I'm having to resort to guerrilla tactics? Moving onwards, still remaining within psychological patterns of the man, something that a man will slowly and surely be able to err into and understand the value of, given that he starts to look inwards, is an acceptance and a comfort of vulnerability. So your general man is going to perceive vulnerability as weakness, softness. But that softness is fluid, and to be stone and stubborn and to be a fortress of a man who doesn't allow anything in because he's frightened, because he's overcompensating, of course, will be smashed down. He is not mobile, he can't maneuver, he can't operate. It's a paradox. The emotional armor makes you less approachable. Attraction thrives on authentic openness. One of her attraction triggers is to see you present yourself as an organic, emotive man, but not to the degree where you are unable to regulate your emotions, but the way that you can be true and honest of your human experience. It's admirable because she might not have seen that in her dad, yet she knows that her dad was but human, but he was scared of exposing a deeper depth of who he was. Why are we so scared of that? Vulnerability and showing our comfort within the vulnerable space showcases to her that we're fine outside of our comfort zone, we're fine under pressure, we will survive together as a family unit because you can trust me, because I am consistently residing and available in this vulnerable space. It has a link within the idea of peacocking. I make myself look foolish. I open myself up to ridicule from the general public because I am okay to be vulnerable. I'm not fearful. I'm not scared. It doesn't bother me. The woman will be repulsed by communication issues, poor conversational skills. You're not able to engage with the woman because you're too busy trying to sell yourself as opposed to understand what she wants to buy. You're not curious about her, you're insecure, you're trying to sell yourself and talk about yourself and desperately force feed her information that you deem valuable, but she doesn't. It's a two-way street, and you're allowing your main character syndrome, which we all have, we all live in our own heads. You allow your main character syndrome to rid yourself of any potential serious intimacy you may have with that lady. What aligns with poor conversational skills is this overt and excessive boasting that most men do, you know, the beating of the chest of the gorilla. It's an overcompensation. She sees that. She's seeing it 24 hours a day with every man on planet Earth. The cool, calm, confident man who is self-assured and understands his value knows that it is manifest naturally. If the man has no drive, no purpose, which is represented through the actions of his day-to-day, she's not going to see a future in him, or unconsciously her biological hardwiring is not going to see a future in him. She needs you to have ambition and direction. She needs you to be a leader, and how can you lead with no direction? If you've got no movement, if you've got no momentum, if you've got no intention to develop momentum, what good is it for her and the future children she initially wanted to have with you? Yeah, I like to play video games to de-stress, but she sees that as a lack of drive, because it is, because you're not garnering genuine resource or managing to do so. And you can say, well, it's my downtime, it's blah blah blah, but you don't understand clearly that your downtime could be spent in the same manner, manufacturing dopamine and positive hormone through genuine advancement, through accumulation in the realm of the real as opposed to the virtual. Poor resource management. You're broke as a joke. You can't look after yourself, you can't pay your bills, you got debt. Come on. Pull yourself together, man. And you're inconsistent. She's gonna say you don't stick by your word. It's a turn off. It's gonna trigger her repulsion. The fact that she can't believe in you, the fact that she can't trust you, is gonna create a person of herself that can't be trusted by you. She's gonna reflect that. She's gonna cheat on you. If you're inconsistent, if you don't abide with what you say, if you don't stick to what you tell her, it's a two-way street. Not only is she not going to believe you, but you're not going to believe yourself. Your words are going to be meaningless. You're not going to garner and receive that which you have always dreamt. I don't make promises often, and I made a promise the other day to take action and do something I didn't necessarily want to do. And I went through with it, and I engaged with that person, and I said, you know, that promise I made, I've stuck with it. And the thing is, I've proven to myself that given I promise it, I've proven to myself that my word is of such value that I stick to it no matter the odds. So if I can prove that, given the world is against me, to a lesser degree, if I manifest and promise to myself something of a lesser quality yet still of progressive momentum, i.e. I want to do this, I need to do that, I need to accumulate that, I need to level up this in my life, I know through the recognition of patterns that what I say manifests in reality. That's a deeper level of the law of attraction. As opposed to triggering the subconscious distrust through your inconsistency, your consistency creates and triggers attraction. Once again, if you neglect your personal growth on a spiritual basis, that stagnancy is going to lower your overall resonance. You're not going to operate at a higher level. You are going to be perceived as but a low frequency meat puppet such as the rest of this earth. She's not going to see you as ethereal, as magic, as mystical, and you can say that stuff doesn't exist. Well, what does that matter? If that stuff didn't exist, it's irrelevant. She likes Harry Potter, she likes fantasy, she's got an imagination. She likes to think, and she likes to explore, and she likes drama, and she likes unsolved crime mysteries. The stimulation of the feminine imagination is the most important necessity in your communication with her as far as attraction is concerned. You need to integrate your physical, your psychological, your spiritual. You need to learn these three planes of reality, or your perceived reality. As you do so, you will only continue to attract. You won't repel. You may exist in a higher plane where you can't necessarily speak with much, well, you can speak with depth, don't get me wrong, but you might not correlate with the general populace, given that you are elevated to a higher field, but you are not going to repel these people. And as you become self-aware, you become magnetic. It will naturally enhance your attraction. Vibration, confidence, authenticity outweigh any surface level pick-up artistry tactic. Alright, the energy you exude is forever. It continues, it grows. It establishes momentum as you continue finding oneself. Strategy is cheap and deceitful. You're not going to war with that woman. She's naturally going to want to abide and submit to you by the man you are. That's some game. Click like and subscribe. I'm signing out. Peace.